Right now, one of the biggest questions surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers is the quarterback position. And if you've been following everything happening around the team this offseason, you know that the situation is far from settled. The Steelers are clearly evaluating every possible path forward, and another name has suddenly entered the conversation in a very real way. Geno Smith is now officially available, and that development could add an entirely new layer to what Pittsburgh might be considering over the coming weeks. The reason Smith is available is because the Las Vegas Raiders made the decision to release him after a very difficult season in 2025. The Raiders had traded for Smith after hiring Pete Carroll, hoping that the veteran quarterback could stabilize the position and lead the offense. Instead, the season turned into a disaster. Las Vegas finished with a 2-13 record with Smith as the starter, and the struggles were very visible throughout the year. One of the most concerning numbers from that season was the interception total, as Smith threw 17 interceptions, which led the entire league. Because of that disappointing year, the Raiders ultimately chose to move on. And now, Smith enters the market as another veteran quarterback option for teams that are still searching for answers at the position. And when you look at the Steelers' current situation, it's not hard to understand why his name could quickly start appearing in conversations about Pittsburgh's plans. The Steelers have been dealing with quarterback uncertainty for a while now, and the organization has shown a clear pattern in how they've tried to address it recently. Over the past 2 offseasons, Pittsburgh has gone down the path of bringing in experienced veteran quarterbacks through free agency. In 2024, they signed Russell Wilson. Then in 2025, they added Aaron Rodgers, continuing that strategy of leaning on proven veterans rather than immediately committing to a completely new long-term solution. But now, the situation once again feels uncertain. During a recent appearance on the Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers did not commit to returning, and that alone keeps the door open for the Steelers to evaluate other possibilities. Even if Rodgers were to return, the team could still decide that they want additional competition or insurance at the position. And if Rodgers doesn't return, then the conversation becomes even more urgent. Another name already floating around the quarterback market is Kyler Murray, who became a free agent after being released by the Arizona Cardinals. So when you look at the broader picture, there are multiple experienced quarterbacks suddenly available. And that creates an interesting situation for a team like Pittsburgh that is still trying to determine exactly what direction it wants to take. Now, what makes Geno Smith particularly intriguing is the fact that his most recent season doesn't fully represent the entire story of his career. Before joining the Raiders, Smith had a very strong 3-year stretch with the Seattle Seahawks that completely revived his career in the NFL. During that run, he started 49 games and compiled a 27-22 record. More importantly, his production during that period was extremely efficient. Smith threw 71 touchdown passes while only throwing 35 interceptions across those 3 seasons, showing the type of balance and decision-making that helped re-establish him as a legitimate starting quarterback in the league. That stretch in Seattle is the version of Geno Smith that teams will likely be evaluating right now. The question front offices will ask themselves is simple. Was the disastrous year in Las Vegas an indication that Smith has regressed, or was it a product of a difficult situation that spiraled out of control? For a team like the Steelers, which has already shown a willingness to take chances on experienced quarterbacks looking for the right environment, that's a very important question. And when you consider the Steelers' recent approach, it's not hard to imagine why Smith could at least be on their radar. Pittsburgh has consistently explored veteran options, and the organization clearly believes that the right experienced quarterback could help stabilize the offense while they continue shaping the rest of the roster. So now the big discussion begins. With Geno Smith officially available, with Aaron Rodgers still not committing to a return, and with other quarterbacks like Kyler Murray also entering the market, the Steelers suddenly have several paths they could consider as they try to solve the most important position on the field. The real question now is how seriously Pittsburgh might look at Smith as part of that process. Would the Steelers view him as a legitimate option to compete for the job? Or is this simply another name to monitor while the organization waits to see how the rest of the quarterback market unfolds? And that's where I want to hear from you. If you were in charge of the Steelers right now, would Geno Smith be a quarterback you'd seriously consider bringing to Pittsburgh? Or do you think the team should be looking in a completely different direction? Because when you really step back and look at the situation the Steelers are facing, the quarterback decision they make this offseason could shape the direction of the franchise for the next several years. This isn't just about adding another name to the roster, it's about identifying the right fit for the offense, the locker room, and the long-term vision of the organization. And that's why Geno Smith suddenly becoming available is something that Steelers fans shouldn't ignore. Even with the struggles he had in Las Vegas last season, there is still a fairly recent body of work that shows he can perform at a high level in the right system. His 3-year run with the Seattle Seahawks proved that his career wasn't defined by the early years that many people once wrote off. Instead, he reinvented himself, became a Pro Bowl quarterback, and showed the kind of efficiency that every team is looking for at the position. During that stretch in Seattle, Smith didn't just put up numbers, he also demonstrated the ability to lead an offense that relied on smart decision-making, timing, and accuracy. Throwing 71 touchdowns to just 35 interceptions over 3 seasons is the type of production that suggests a quarterback who understands how to manage games while still making big plays when they're needed. That's why teams evaluating him right now will likely focus on that version of Geno Smith rather than the difficult season he had with the Raiders. The reality is that situations matter in the NFL. Coaching changes, roster issues, offensive schemes, and team stability can all play a huge role in how a quarterback performs. And when a season ends with a 2-13 record, it's rarely just about one player. For the Steelers, the bigger picture is still about stability at quarterback. The organization has clearly been searching for the right formula ever since. They began turning toward veteran options in recent years, signing Russell Wilson in 2024 and then bringing in Aaron Rodgers in 2025 showed that Pittsburgh wasn't afraid to take bold swings if they believed the veteran quarterback could help them compete. But now they are once again standing at a crossroads. Aaron Rodgers' comments on the Pat McAfee show left things uncertain. He didn't commit to returning, and that uncertainty forces the Steelers to keep evaluating every possible alternative. They cannot afford to sit back and wait without having contingency plans in place. That's where names like Geno Smith start to enter the conversation. Not necessarily as the guaranteed answer, but as a realistic option that could at least give the team another experienced presence at the position. If the Steelers decide they want competition in the quarterback room, or if they believe that a veteran bridge option is still the best path forward, Smith becomes a name that naturally fits that type of strategy. And don't forget, this quarterback market is suddenly becoming more crowded, with Kyler Murray also becoming a free agent after his release from the Arizona Cardinals. There are multiple quarterbacks available who could attract interest from teams still searching for answers. That means Pittsburgh is likely studying every scenario very carefully before making a move. The front office knows that whatever decision they make will be heavily scrutinized by fans and analysts across the league. Steelers fans expect this team to compete every year, and the quarterback position is always the center of that expectation. Bringing in the wrong player could set the offense back. But finding the right veteran, even if it's not a long-term solution, could give the team the stability it needs while continuing to build the roster. So the next few weeks could become extremely interesting. Geno Smith's availability adds another variable to an already complicated quarterback situation. Whether he ends up being a serious target for Pittsburgh or simply one of several names under consideration remains to be seen. But the fact that he's now on the market means the Steelers have another decision to think about. And this is exactly where the conversation among fans becomes so important, because everyone has a different view on what the Steelers should do next. Some fans believe the team should continue trusting veteran quarterbacks who have proven they can play in the league. Others think it's time to move in a completely different direction. Now I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Geno Smith could actually work in Pittsburgh if the Steelers decided to pursue him? Or would you rather see the team focus on another quarterback option instead? Because when you look deeper into everything happening around the Steelers right now, the quarterback conversation doesn't exist in isolation. It connects to every other decision the team is trying to make this offseason. The direction they choose at that position will influence how the offense is built, how the roster is managed, and how competitive the team believes it can be in the immediate future. That's why the name Geno Smith entering the market is more than just another headline. It represents another possible path for a franchise that has clearly been exploring veteran leadership at quarterback over the last few seasons. The Steelers have not been shy about bringing in experienced players who have already proven they can operate at a high level in the NFL, and Smith's career arc makes him a particularly interesting case. His story is one that many fans across the league followed closely. After early struggles in his career, Smith managed to rebuild his reputation with the Seattle Seahawks, putting together that impressive 3-year stretch where he produced efficiently and helped stabilize the offense. Those seasons reminded people that development in the NFL doesn't always follow a straight line. Sometimes a quarterback finds the right system, the right coaching environment, and the right timing to unlock the best version of himself. For the Steelers, that type of experience could be valuable, especially if the team believes the offense still needs a steady veteran presence, while other parts of the roster continue to evolve. But at the same time, the organization also knows that every veteran signing carries risk. The Raiders' 2025 season with Smith is the perfect example of how quickly things can go wrong when a situation doesn't come together the way a team expects. A 2-13 record and a league leading 17 interceptions are numbers that no team can ignore when evaluating a quarterback. Front offices always have to determine whether those struggles were the result of individual decline or the product of a difficult environment that would not necessarily repeat somewhere else. That evaluation process is exactly what teams across the league are likely doing right now. And that's why the Steelers front office will probably take their time before making any major decisions. The quarterback market is still developing, and several options are being discussed. Aaron Rodgers has not committed to returning, leaving uncertainty about whether Pittsburgh will continue that partnership. Kyler Murray's release from the Arizona Cardinals adds another intriguing name to the pool of available quarterbacks. Now Geno Smith joins that list, creating even more possibilities. From the outside, it might look like a complicated puzzle, but for the Steelers, it's simply part of the process of building a roster capable of competing in the AFC. Every move has to be calculated, especially when it involves the most important position in the sport. And that's why the conversations happening right now among Steelers fans are so interesting. Some people see Geno Smith as a veteran who has already proven he can revive his career and succeed when placed in the right situation. Others view the struggles in Las Vegas as a warning sign that the team should look elsewhere. Both perspectives are understandable, and ultimately the Steelers' leadership will have to weigh every piece of information before deciding whether Smith is someone they should pursue or simply monitor as the market unfolds. What's clear is that Pittsburgh is still searching for the answer that will bring stability to the quarterback position. Whether that answer ends up being a returning veteran, a newly available free agent like Geno Smith, or another option entirely, the decision will shape the next chapter of Steelers football. So now it's your turn to join the discussion. If you were making the call for the Steelers front office, would Geno Smith be a move worth exploring? Or do you believe Pittsburgh should focus on a completely different direction at quarterback? And the more this situation develops, the clearer it becomes that the Steelers are entering one of the most important evaluation periods of their entire offseason. Every available option at quarterback is being analyzed, and the front office understands that the decision they make will influence not only the offense, but also the confidence of the fan base and the expectations surrounding the team heading into the next season. Geno Smith being released by the Las Vegas Raiders adds another layer to that evaluation process. When a quarterback with Pro Bowl experience suddenly becomes available, teams across the league naturally take notice. Even after a difficult year, the fact that Smith recently produced 3 strong seasons with the Seattle Seahawks means that decision makers will still study what he could potentially offer in the right situation. For the Steelers, the conversation always circles back to stability. Over the last 2 off seasons, the organization made it clear that experience at quarterback still carries a lot of value in their eyes. Signing Russell Wilson in 2024 and later bringing in Aaron Rodgers in 2025 showed that Pittsburgh was willing to rely on veteran leadership rather than rushing into a long-term rebuild at the position. But with Rodgers not committing to a return during his appearance on the Pat McAfee show, uncertainty once again surrounds the quarterback room. And in the NFL, uncertainty at that position forces teams to prepare for every possible outcome. That means evaluating free agents, monitoring releases around the league, and making sure they're ready to act if the right opportunity presents itself. That's exactly why Geno Smith's name is now entering the broader discussion. Not necessarily as the guaranteed answer, but as another experienced quarterback who could potentially compete for a role. Depending on how the rest of the market unfolds, his career resurgence in Seattle proved that he can operate an offense efficiently when things are structured